Hello friends, this is Ryan Hicks of TaughtToProfit.com. Today I want to talk to you about giving back and that you need to stop saying you're giving back. This happens a lot when people get any kind of wealth. They say, well, the reason I started this charity or the reason I did this is because I want to give back. But wording it that way implies that you took something and so now you're needing to give it back. And the reality is most people's hard work, intelligent work, efficient and effective work has produced the results they got. Now, yes, they had people help them along the way, but unless you're helping those people directly who helped you, just giving to charities and giving to poor people and homeless people and all these things, you're not giving back to those people. They didn't give you anything in the first place. This also gives a bad motive for the giving. Because in your mind, you're feeling like, well, because you attain some level of wealth, because you achieve success, then you're somehow a debtor to everyone else. And you have to, other people who haven't achieved that, you need to give back to them because you somehow took from them by having success. That's not the way it works. We live in an abundant universe. God has created an abundance everywhere. There's an abundance. People talk about overpopulation. There's an infinite supply of resources for the amount of people living today. And it can continue to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And we can continue to provide for everybody. Now, everybody doesn't get provided for, but that's not because there is a lack of resources, because there's a lack of ambition, a lack of intelligence, a lack of going forward and getting those resources. What we need to do is not look at this as some sort of debt you owe to society, you owe to other people. That's not a way to give, because then you're just paying back a debt. You're not really giving. You're paying something you owe, and that's not a way to look at things. It's not true giving when you believe that you are giving back. That is just you as a debtor paying off a debt to a creditor. That's you feeling like you need to pay something to these people who somehow you owe for whatever reason. But you have to get out of that mentality. You have to get out of this mentality that you owe people, that your success has made you a debtor to those who haven't been successful, that your wealth makes you a debtor to those who have no wealth. It isn't the case. Now, yes, you need to be helping those people, but you need to be very wise about that. Just throwing money at them when they haven't fixed the problems that caused them to be poor in the first place isn't going to help them. That's a temporary fix for a long-term problem that they don't want to fix in many cases. You know, this is one of the things I've worked with homeless and needy people over the years, and one of the things you see, and there's very few organizations that most of them want to throw money at people, throw food, throw clothes, and do nothing to actually help them. And it's because it's a lazy way of doing it. It's easy. It's harder to get these people to actually change and make the changes they need to have a good life and to be productive for themselves. And I think it's not loving to just throw food and money and clothes at people who aren't trying to make the changes they need to make to not be in that position in the first place. And that doesn't mean everybody. Sometimes people get sick. I'm not talking about that. That's where alms come in. People who are sick or mentally and physically disabled. Although physically disabled, sometimes those people can still contribute great things as long as their mind is working fine. You know, Stephen Hawking's a perfect example of that. You can do great things if you're disabled. So don't use your disability as an excuse that you can't do anything. It's not true. You can do a lot. Don't let people tell you just got to be pushed in a corner because you're paralyzed and you just sit over there and do nothing all day because you can't contribute because your body doesn't work. That's not true. Don't listen to those kind of lies. Anybody can contribute, presuming they're able of mind. And maybe the physical body might be more of an issue depending on what's actually going on. But you can do something. And that's where alms come in to help those people who can't do something. They're mentally not able. Some physicality creates an issue where they can't do things. That's not most people who are poor. And you'll go into some of these houses of people and you see they have beer in their refrigerator. Some of them have cable and satellite televisions. They have video game consoles. They have huge TVs. They have TVs in many rooms. And you immediately realize the reason for their poverty is a lack of priorities. They put a priority in all these consumer goods, all these vices, and that's why they can't afford food. That's why they can't afford anything else. And I knew a man who would go in, and if you wanted help, he was happy to help you. But he'd go in and he would catalog the things you need to get rid of. If you want his help, cancel that satellite bill. You want his help, why you have 2 cars when you only need 1? It's going to be a little imposition, yes. But if you can't afford food, get rid of this second car. Why are you paying a car payment on something that you don't really need, but it's just a nicety? It makes things a little more convenient. You don't have convenience right now because you can't even afford food. And he goes through a rigorous system of showing them how to apply money in a proper way, how to look at money in a proper way, how to put off purchases that are not required, they're not necessities, put them off in the future when they can afford them, instead of going in right now, doing it as an impulse, and then being in debt, not being able to afford food. And many people won't do it. They just refuse. Now some, the very few, will say, you know what, okay, I never even looked at it that way. I just kind of thought I had to have TV, but I get what you're saying now. Yeah, we thought we needed a second car, but we can just arrange our schedule and do things when my husband gets home from work. Then we can do this and that and the things we need to do after that time. It's going to be a little inconvenient, but yes, why do we need that second car payment? We never even thought about it. We just assumed we needed 2 cars for our family, but we really don't have to have them. And this is not to get those people into a poverty mentality. They already have that, because part of the poverty mentality is a consumerism. It's just buying things randomly. You see something, oh, I have to have that. You have to have all these consumer goods. You have to watch television all day. That is poverty. That is a poverty mindset. Wasting your life away, putting money above time, and all these frivolous things. And so when you think you're just giving back, you're not actually helping anybody. Because the hard work of getting these people on the path to success, removing them from mediocrity and moving them forward towards great things that they can accomplish. They just don't know they can. They've been beaten down by life and beaten down by their own choices because they choose to put themselves in the positions constantly of the same thing occurring over and over, repeating a cycle of debt, poverty, lack, want, and just going, anytime they get any money, they spend it and they're back where they were again, back needing, wanting, and not having enough. And this is not to criticize people who are poor. I want you to understand, not everybody poor is poor for that reason. Some people are just going through a temporary thing, and that's all right, and they'll get over that. But when there's chronic poverty, there's something else going on. And almost every single time, like I said, not considering people who are physically, mentally disabled, but people who are able-minded, able-bodied, almost every time those people are poor because of bad decisions. And continuing bad decisions, not a one-time bad decision 20 years ago, but continuing daily making bad decisions. They barely have any money, they can barely afford gas, and then they go to Starbucks. Why? Why you do? Well, I gotta have some nice things in this life. Yeah, why don't you have nice things when you can afford them? Instead of now you're not gonna have enough money for gas to get to work. And so now you're putting yourself in a position of misery for a 10-minute enjoyment of Starbucks. Or whatever coffee or whatever it is that you fast food, something that you're spending money on that you don't need to be spending on because you don't even have any money right now. And when you're just giving back and throwing money at these people instead of really trying to help them, it doesn't create a better life for them. It's a temporary thing. Yes, the man that's starving needs some food right now, but he also needs some help and guidance to not be starving in the future. So he can be put in a position to not be starving. So he can be helped to not be starving. One of my things that I really want to do in this life, and I've done a lot, but I want to continue to do, is to help people get off the path of poverty and get onto the path of wealth. Not so people can have a bunch of things, but so that they can truly have a fulfilled life. This cycle of poverty to a little bit of success, back to more poverty, is miserable. And it's terrible for the kids. It's terrible for the adults. And it does no good for anybody. Jesus didn't come here so you could live poor and be miserable and suffering and pathetic. Matter of fact, Scripture says that he, through his poverty, now he wasn't poor in the sense that we think of poor. He was poor because he was the creator of everything, and then he became one of his creatures. That's poverty, going from having everything and creating everything to being a creature. That's the poverty that came in from God to becoming a man. But we, through his poverty, might be made rich. Proverbs 10:22 says that the blessing of the Lord, it maketh rich, and he addeth no sorrow with it. Now, why are you not rich? I'm not talking about this opulent lifestyle people think of rich. I'm talking about why do you not have enough and an abundance? This is something to think about. Maybe you're going through a time and you're getting back and you're recovering and you're going to be back on the path and you're going to be having abundance again. But if it's a long-term thing, your entire life, all you've known is poverty, or for many, many years now, all you've known is poverty, you need to really look at this. And if you attained a level of success and wealth, you need to help people, yes. But don't look at it as some debt, some obligation you owe them because you took something out of the universe and now nobody else can have that. There is more than enough for you and everyone else. You're not taking from other people by becoming successful. You're not taking from other people by attaining a level of wealth. You don't have to give back. You're giving freely of your own free will, not grudgingly, not of necessity. You're doing it cheerfully. You're a cheerful giver, and you're actually giving. You're not paying a debt. You're not paying something you owe these people because they didn't succeed. You don't owe anyone. And that's the nice thing. The only thing you owe to man is to love him. That's a command. That's the only thing you owe to your fellow human being is to love them. But as far as your wealth, you're not giving back. You're giving. And this is greater. When people just say they're giving back, and I know a lot of people say that it's just something they've heard and they just repeat it. It sounds good. I think it's a way of false humility. Oh, I'm giving back. But you didn't owe anybody anything. You're actually giving. This is a greater thing. You're cheerfully giving from a loving heart of compassion for people. That's a huge difference from, oh, I'm just giving back. You got to give back. I've had a lot of blessings in this life. Well, none of it for the people you're giving to. If you want to say giving back because you give back to people who've helped you along the way, okay, that's true. That's a good statement. But when you're giving to random charities and people who have never had any influence with you and haven't impacted your life, you're not giving back. You're giving from a cheerful heart. You're giving out of love. And that's a better thing than giving back. And you should. You shouldn't attain wealth just to have a bunch of things. You should attain wealth to be able to do more for other people and be a true blessing in this life and be a blessing to all nations and bless numerous people instead of being one that needs the blessing. So my friends, I hope this will change your thinking. One of the things I try to do with all these videos is try to get people to think, to change the way they think about things. You can do whatever you want, obviously. I don't have any control over what you do, but I want you to change the way you think. I want you to change your mentality. I want you to give because you want to give out of a cheerful, loving, compassionate heart, not out of some sort of debt. I want you to give not because you feel like your attainment of success, your attainment of wealth was at the expense of other people. Because it wasn't. Unless you did something wrong, it shouldn't have been at the expense of other people. And there is an abundance in this universe, and when you think there's not an abundance, then that's when you get this mentality of having to give back. And that your wealth somehow is taking from other people and is hindering other people from attaining wealth, and it's not. So my friends, I pray this has been a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.